Hello, heathens, and welcome back to Spinning the Wheel podcast with me, your transcendent host, Megan Angus. And this is Samhain/Yule season, new moon in Sagittarius, lunar week 45. Where the hell have you been? Drifting in the cosmos, my friends. It's been a hell of a year. But I don't need to tell you that because you were here living through it alongside me in your own fashion. So here we are. Before we go any further, of course, we have to just get the podcast started off with free Palestine, free Sudan, free Congo, free Haiti, no war with Venezuela, land back now, arm the dolls, chinga la migra, and fuck fascism. Okay, are you still here? All right, let's move on. Just, letting the trash take itself out. If anybody has any problems with any of those things that just got said, bye. See ya. That's how we roll here on the podcast. 2026. Oh boy. Well, we'll deal with that in a minute. Let's deal with the end of 2025 first. I have been drifting through the cosmos, but here we are now. So let's enjoy this moment. I've got stuff coming up. Things are happening in the places where things happen. I have, first and foremost, year ahead readings happening. These are astrology based reports or tarot based reports. These are live readings that come with a detailed full color PDF report. The astro is through the lens of astrology and the wheel, looking at your key times, energetic moments. As I've said several times in, the media that I've put out, in the places I've put it, I really am trying to build a tool to help you with your witchcraft in the 2026 cycle, because, surprise, stuff is coming up. So that's the intention of the reports. The tarot reports are also live readings, also have a full color PDF report looking at your coming year through the lens of tarot and the wheel of the year. And in both of these reports, we are also pulling your tarot card for the year. And we're going to talk about how that might be an overlying theme for you and how your overlying theme sits with the other overlying themes that are coming through in the next cycle, etc., etc. So, in the astrology report, we're going to look at, all of the really obvious stuff like Saturn and Neptune and Uranus and the nodes all changing signs, but we're also going to look at like this really interesting structure in the sky between Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus and where that's hitting in your chart. Uranus squaring the nodes. All of our Mercury retrogrades and water signs next year. Exciting. Who isn't excited for that? Everybody is not excited for that. Etc., etc. So sign up. There's, a limited number. There's still some, but there's a limited number. And if you are a Patreon, thank you. I don't know why you're still here. That is some real talk. Thank you. Your discount codes apply to all of that stuff. If you're not a patron, go become a patron, get a discount code. There's that stuff. I also am going to have a 2026 astrology overview type class sort of situation coming up. I was thinking about doing it in January. I think I'm going to push it back till February. I might even push it back till March. Not sure. There are a ton of really fabulous astrologers doing year ahead classes and workshops right now or very soon. I would absolutely recommend, a podcast favorite, Amanda Moreno at Aquarian Spirals. I know she's got something coming up that's an overview of next year. And I also believe that Jessica Lanyadoo is doing a 2026 upcoming astrology overview. And those are two astrologers that I absolutely trust with all of y'all. They've got great advice. They're both going to have their own takes, and I'm going to have my own take, right? But if you want something right now, go check those guys out. But if you want to look at what's coming up for you, go to my website, buy a reading. Please help me pay rent. I mean, it's for your witchcraft. And okay, whatever. But let's move on. My regular books for readings are closed while I am doing the year ahead readings. They will reopen, you know, in the new year. They are booked, but they will reopen in the new year. Also, we have an upcoming class on January 29th. That is going to be our Wheel of the Year in bulk class, where we take also a look through the lens of the Wheel of the Year at the coming year and the coming cycle, and that portion of winter in particular. And some other classes coming up in January. Announcements coming soon. Okay, let's get into this. I know I already said it at the top of the podcast, but let me say it again. This is Samhain/Yule season, new moon in Sagittarius, lunar week 45. All right, we're going to be looking at the week of December 19th through the 26th. And this is, of course, kicked off by our new moon in Sagittarius. But before we get into that, like we always do in the podcasts, because what is time? We want to look at the various layers and cycles that we are living in. So first off, we are still in the year of the snake. I know that there's been a lot of conversation recently about the fire horse year that's coming up, and we are assuredly going to get into that meaty topic. But we're still in the year of the snake. We've got about 8 weeks left in this current cycle. Snake years encourage transformation and introspection and intuition. They encourage a wisdom-based approach to life and work. And that's a lot of information right there. Transformation, okay, so changes, right? And as we have seen, 2025 has not only brought us tremendous change that we wanted, but tremendous change that we didn't want, right? Systems are moving outside of our control. It has caused quite a bit of introspection. We have had to rely on our intuition to get through things. That's a big piece of the Neptune transit through the sign of Pisces over the last 14 years. Wood snake energy in particular emphasizes creativity and flexibility as methods to kind of handle what the universe is serving up. And wood energy in particular enhances adaptation and softening. I know for a lot of folks at the very beginning of the year, I recommended building a nest somewhere in your house, like taking a little corner and and telling people like, this is not like a book nook. This is not a place to, have it for the gram or whatever. Like, this is literally a spot in your house for curling up and nesting like a snake would. Like, I'm done with the world. I need to I need to just curl up in my little moment right here and like stretch out and just no thank you. Nope it out to the whole situation. Snakes feature prominently in many healing myths from around the planet, and this has been a really great year to consider what of yourself you have outgrown and are in need of shedding and healing. Lot that I could say there. Like I said, we still have about 8 weeks left in this snake year, so I encourage you to continue to check out mindfulness practices that support mental health, as well as movement practices that support balance and any kind of practices that strengthen your immune system, or enhance your capacity to be flexible, enhance your capacity to adapt. We are ultimately in the stages of moving out of that cycle, but we still have a little ways to go. Okay. Another layer that we are about to step into is winter. We are about to experience a deep seasonal shift here in the Northern Hemisphere. We're moving from fall to winter. This is a season of death and rebirth, of returning to source, release, purification, and dreaming. When I think about the work that we do across the season of winter, I think of Capricorn as like a death and a rebirth of the body and form. I think of Aquarius season as a death and rebirth of the mind and ethos. And I think of Pisces season as a death and a rebirth of the soul and our beliefs. So winter gives us this opportunity to slow down, stop, opportunity slash we're required sometimes, right? I don't know where you're listening. Up here in Washington in the Pacific Northwest, we have had a year's worth of rain or more dump on us in just a few days slash weeks. We've had blizzards roll through. It's been wild up here, and life is being slowed down for you no matter what, right? A lot of roads have been washed out. There's a lot of trees and landslides and mudslides that have happened and are expected to continue to happen. So wintertime stops us. Wintertime says, sit the fuck down. More pointedly, we are about to step into the season of Yule, the Sabbath of Yule, which of course is celebrated on winter solstice, for winter solstice, but I think of it as, the ongoing weeks after that as well. And Yule season focuses our witches' work on returning to source, death and rebirth, wisdom, and ancestors. For folks in the Northern Hemisphere, we witness the sun die and be reborn 3 days in a row before it begins its ascent back up into the sky. And many pagan traditions treat this time as the end of an old cycle and the start of a new one. We've talked about that timekeeping thing quite a bit throughout the years of these classes and podcasts and pieces of writing on Patreon. Lots of folks end old cycles and start new cycles at this time of year, but we know from working the wheel that there is no start or end to a cycle, but we can pretend like there's one here. And, we have lots of biorhythmic, astronomical phenomenon, weather phenomenon, geocentric phenomenon happening around us that encourages that metaphor. It's beautiful. But we have celebrations that end and start cycles in September and October. We have spring-oriented cycles where everything's all about the vernal equinox, etc., etc. The ancient Egyptians ended and started their cycles in the middle of summer because of the heliacal rising of a fixed star. So don't feel like you have to, and don't feel like you can't. But if this feels like a place where something needs to end and a new thing needs to start, you have lots of support from the universe around you. Side note, you always have lots of support from the universe around you. But that's witchcraft. That's witchcraft. Okay. Stuff that we're doing in Yule season specifically, rebirth of the sun. We're celebrating the rebirth of the sun. The renewal of the self as well. The sun in astrology represents our conscious self and our sense of purpose. And so we get to work with that metaphor here as well. And kindling or rekindling your sacred fire. It's quite reasonable that your sacred flame, your torch, your soul has withered a little bit over the last few years, that the winds of change or the winds of fascism, are trying to blow out your light. And so this is a fantastic time of year to intentionally rekindle your own fire. This is also a really great time of year to meditate on your gained wisdom through whatever you've lived through this year. What have you learned? What have you accumulated, right? And be honest with yourself, because if we're going to be honest, there might be a lot of cynicism and some yucky, gnarly shit in there that you've accumulated. Real, true, hashtag yes. Absolutely, right? But also, if you're being real with yourself, if you're being honest with yourself, you've probably accumulated a lot of really amazing events, a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom. So this is a great time for doing some journaling and taking an account of what all has happened for you this year. Hibernating. God bless a 6-week nap. Yes, ma'am. Let's go for it. This is also a great time for those of us who work with deities to witness the eternal goddess, to witness that presence as this ever present but ever changing energy source around us. This is a great time for reaffirming our connection to spirit and affirming life and order in the face of death and chaos. And this is something that I get into quite a bit in the Yule classes. Which, side note, if you want to learn even more about this stuff, go to my YouTube channel. I have tons of information up there. I have free classes there. I also have a ton of information on my website on the Yule page. There's a lot of writing. There's stuff to listen to, stuff to watch, blah, blah, blah. You can also, if you really want to dive in deep, join my Patreon and get the workbook and other supplementary materials, etc., etc. But anyways, this is something that I talk about a lot in this material is reaffirming or affirming life and order in the face of death and chaos. That's a big part of why, like, lights and candles are such a big deal at this time of year. It's not simply that the sun is super low and the days are short and the nights are long, but it's also pushing back against the darkness. I don't know if you feel like you are surrounded by darkness, but this is an excellent time to push back against the darkness, whatever that might mean to you. When we step across this threshold, we also head into the sign of Capricorn. And Capricorn, brings our conscious sense of self and our sense of purpose into really being concerned with stuff like organization and practicality and success. And when we see celestial bodies, the sun, the moon, and, whomsoever else happens to travel through Capricorn over the next month, they're going to take on attitudes that are a little bit more pragmatic and responsible and oriented towards ambitions or long-term goals, that type of stuff. So that's, in the background, the energy that we're working with for the Sabbath, the sun moving through Capricorn, etc. Another cycle that we are moving through at this time of year that's a large, a bigger month-long cycle is our Celtic tree month of Birch. All right, side note to the side note, the Celtic tree month idea, this system, is a modern invention based on old stuff. So yes, it's got older pieces of information and old folklore, old traditions embedded in it, but it is a modern amalgamation of that stuff. Do with that what you will. I still think it's really cool. Modern magicians have the advantage of hindsight, so why not? If it speaks to you, work with it. And the system sets static dates, generally speaking, for the Celtic tree months. So it'll run from this date to this date. Those dates will fluctuate by like a couple of days from one book to another or one source to another. But some people work with the system in different ways. So some folks say, here's the month, it's from this date to this date, boom, Celtic tree month, got it. Other folks will orient it to the lunar cycle. So what they'll say is sometime within this month, there's going to be a new moon and a full moon. And that lunar month is the Celtic tree month. And then others will even do it a different way where they just sort of focus the energy on the full moon that falls somewhere in the month. So again, your mileage may vary. You work with the system however it makes sense to you. If it's cool, do research on it. / you know me, I might have mixed some of that up. So double check my references. always double check me because I don't know what I'm talking about. I see you when we're hanging out and you're literally holding your phone in your hand, Googling me. It's fine. Are you here for the facts or are you here for the story, right? You decide. But we are moving into the Celtic tree month of Birch. This runs from December 24th to January 20th, approximately. And Birch Another word or a phrase that moves with this is the achiever, the accomplisher, the successor. This is the first moon of the Celtic year, generally speaking. And again, this is not going to be identical from one source to the other, but generally speaking, this is the first moon of the Celtic year, and the birch tree symbolizes renewal, adaptability, new beginnings. Whoa, all words that we've already talked about, and we've talked about 3 different systems. The Celtic name for this month is Be. It's pronounced, or it's spelled Beth, Beth, but it's pronounced Be. Or Bay, right? Here we go. This is named after the first letter in the Ogham tree alphabet. And I know that some of you out there are big fans of the Ogham tree alphabet. That is a territory where I've stuck one toe in, and eventually I'll be an expert at it. But again, this tree is indicative, and this letter, Be, from the Ogham tree alphabet, is indicative of new beginnings, births, and new starts. This is a time of regeneration. And some pagans even have a tradition of creating a broom or a swisher of some kind out of birch leaves, birch branches, birch twigs, and using it as a broom to brush evil spirits or badness or negativity away and out of the home around now for winter solstice or on New Year's, as a tradition for that. So that's some of our Celtic tree information. There's a lot more in the notes on Patreon for this podcast. Okay, so now let's dial even more deeply into this moon, this week, the astrology, and the holy days for this week. Okay, so here we go. Let's get into what the heck we're doing this week. This is our new moon at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. It is exact at 5:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, later in the day / the next day for everybody else around the planet. This moon highlights the Sagittarius-Gemini axis. We've already had the full moon in Gemini, so we're sort of just wrapping up the process at this point. But anytime we're hanging out in the Gemini-Sagittarius axis, we are working on the internal paradox of ideas that are available to our minds, that our minds can grasp, versus expanding our awareness or our beliefs or our experiences beyond our own understanding. And whatever tension or blessings comes from addressing that work. This moon is ruled by Jupiter because it is in the sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter is currently retrograde in the sign of Cancer. It is exalted in the sign of Cancer, and while it's here, it's also being squared by Chiron retrograde. So, this moon is sitting at 28 degrees of Sagittarius. It is also hanging out with Venus at 24 degrees of Sag and Mars at 3 degrees of Capricorn on the other side. And the moon itself is squared by Neptune at 29 degrees Pisces and Saturn at 25 degrees of Pisces. And there is a chart up for patrons if you want to look at that, but you can pull up a chart anywhere. So first off, let's orient ourselves. We've already talked about Sagittarius energy. We talked about Capricorn energy. We've talked about seasonal energy, fall, winter, blah, 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 blah. We've talked about our winter solstice stuff. But let's talk about this new moon. We actually haven't talked about Sag energy. We're going to. We're about to. When we're hanging out with new moons in any sign, this is a start to a process. The new moon work is built out of our conscious identity and purpose, the sun, merging with our feelings and intuition, the moon. The aim is to find a new approach through the synthesis of these two things. This is our last new moon of fall, and it's coming so close to winter solstice that I personally don't really feel like we're doing fall work at this point. We're basically done with our fall work, and we're initiating winter solstice work, even though technically Sagittarius energy is connected to Samhain, it's connected to fall, technically, but it's also the mutable sign that oversees our shape shifting, our transformation, our adaptation from whatever we were in fall to whatever we need to be as we step into winter, Capricorn season, etc. So when we're hanging out with new moons, again, this is a start, it's a seed, it's an opportunity to take a new look at something, to try a new approach. And what I will often say is that new moons are really great for starting something or coming back around to something that we have not addressed in a long time. And again, hopefully bringing like a new perspective, a new technique, a new something, a new passion to like give it a shot again, whatever it is. New moons offer openings, starts, initiations, and introductions to stuff we are handling. It might be our first time with the work, or it might be stuff that we've worked on before, and we are coming back around with a new approach, a new attitude, or a new outlook. New moon in Sagittarius aims its arrow at our experiences with faith, our relationship to possibility, and our capacity to see a farther horizon. And again, all of the bliss and tension that can come up with that work. Sagittarius energy is fiery and inspiring and open-minded, usually. On the conscious level, this can look like actions and interactions that deepen our religious and philosophical practices, or push us to travel far distances, whether that's physically or metaphysically. On the intuitive level, Sagittarius season asks us to sit with our experiences, all of them, and take an accounting of what wisdom we have gleaned from the adventure so far. When this is explored and expressed in healthy ways, it looks like a philanthropic spirit, jovial optimism, and truth-seeking exploration. When Sagittarius energy is unhealthy or out of balance, the archer turns into a drive-by. This can look like dogmatic righteousness, blind faith, and super insensitive tactlessness, because of course Sagittarius is so dedicated to the truth and the blunt delivery of it. Moon in Sagittarius specifically can be really concerned with keeping the vibes feeling good because of that influence from its ruler, Jupiter. And so it can find itself in a spiral of say anything to keep folks happy, pushing off the consequences as long as they can get away with it. But when we call in the healthiest expression of Sagittarius energy, the truth is paramount, no matter who is made uncomfortable. This new moon is hugged on either side by Venus in Sagittarius and Mars in Capricorn. Venus represents the parts of us that are really concerned with living in alignment with our values and also being perceived as living in alignment with our values. Venus in Sagittarius is generally pretty sweet, but it can drift into wasteful and extravagant or risky money moments. Mars is exalted in Capricorn, and Mars represents the parts of us that go and get what the fuck we want. But it can drift into overzealousness and opinionated arguments. On one side, we have the encouragement to get fired up over the people and the ideas that matter to us, and on the other side, we might be more concerned with making an exaggerated gesture, again, to keep up appearances. With the square from Saturn, there might be friction that feels like insecurity or challenges our optimism or like our faith is being tested. And good old fucking Neptune, who I know I am super sick of at this point, is hanging out at the infamous 29th degree. This is called the anaretic degree. And whatever comes up for us on this new moon might feel super intense because of that. There can simultaneously be a sense of urgency to transcend our current situation and an inability to make a decision. compounding all of this, the ruler Jupiter is being squared by Chiron, both retrograde. So it might feel like the point of the archer's arrow is aimed right at your heart. And that image makes me think of the great sculpture of Saint Teresa of Avila by Bernini. Like the sun, it's time to let the old self compost and open a portal for a new self to come through. And that new self needs to be grounded in the most honest take on reality that we can muster. Okay. Our lunar and plant body work for our new moon in Sagittarius. That's right. For our lunar body work, we are awakening, activating, adorning, stimulating, and preparing for action the lower back, the sciatic nerve family, and the thighs. As I have said thousands of times, I am not a doctor of the human corpus. I am a doctor of the motherfucking cosmos. So do not look to me for health advice. I don't know what I'm talking about. Check in with your trusted health advisor for implementing whatever goofy stuff I'm suggesting. But as I always also say, you can work with the metaphor. So is there something you need to get off your back? Do you need to be more flexible? Is something on your nerves, baby? Work it out, work it out, work it out. Okay. And for our plant body work, if you haven't in a while, spin your plants. Always spin your plants on the new moon, a quarter of a turn at least. But if you haven't spun your plants in a while, give them a spin. Diasil, of course, which is sunwise or clockwise. We also might be doing some harvesting, some plowing or weeding, although it's pouring rain again in Seattle right now. So I don't know. I don't know how that's working out for you. Pruning is also good for now. I would definitely recommend doing some pest control, some disease control, because the weather has been wild. So just check and make sure that your plants are doing good. Do they need to be moved towards or away from the window, a heat source, etc.? Also, in my notes, grafting, layering, taking cuttings, planting annual winter crops that bear their fruits or leaves or whatever above ground, especially the leafy crops. And then also, if it's appropriate for your temperature zone, planting cereals, grains, melons, cucumbers, celery, cabbage, spinach, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that is what's up with this moon and what we've got going on for our season that's coming up. We're going to talk even more about that in just a second. And now we're going to get into the astrology of this week, the fixed stars for this week, and the holy days for this week. Okay, in true classic fashion, I'm going to bounce around a little bit here. So I'm going to do stuff out of order and then in order. And so, just bear with me. But I want to talk a little bit about the astrology of the week as in kind of a bundle of stuff here. So December 19th, we have our new moon in Sagittarius, and then a few hours later, the moon enters Capricorn. So it whooshes right into that energy, right? That's kind of what I was saying before of like, I know traditionally we would say Sag energy is very much, transitional energy. Well, it really is facilitating that this time. December 20th, we have Mercury in Sagittarius square the North Node in Pisces at 11 degrees. We have the Sun in Sagittarius squaring Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees. Venus in Sagittarius squaring Saturn in Pisces at 25 degrees. On the 21st, we have Jupiter retrograde in Cancer squaring Chiron retrograde in Aries at 22 degrees. And then where's the next one? Oh, the December 23rd, we have our waxing crescent moon in Aquarius. I'll come back and talk about that in a second. On the 23rd, we have Venus in Sagittarius squaring Neptune in Pisces at 29 degrees. And then on December 24th, Venus enters Capricorn. So we just have a square after square after square after square this entire week. Exciting, right? Like, what a great time to have the Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter all having arguments with Chiron, Saturn, and Neptune. Perfect timing. Christmas week. What could go wrong? Generally speaking, a lot of these kind of reiterate the same thing, which is disillusionment, fatigue, confusion, depression, funky vibes. Like, the Venus gets to have this argument with Saturn, then it gets to have this argument with Neptune, and then it goes directly into Capricorn, right? The Sun has an argument with the Saturn, or has already had an argument with Saturn, is, just coming off of that, stepping into an argument with Neptune. Jupiter having this argument with Chiron. And I describe squares as arguments. And the reason that I describe them as arguments is because arguments have a lot of tension. They generally aren't fun, but they can be very productive if people step into them with the idea that we have a difference of opinion, but we want to find a solution. We collectively want to make the situation better. When we engage squares, in theory, when we engage squares, we have an opportunity to improve the situation somehow if we step into it authentically thinking, this might suck, but I want the situation to improve, so I'm here for this, even if it's super not fun. That said, this is not traditionally a week of the calendar that we all are like excited to have emotional arguments or like have this level of friction, right? This is a week of the calendar where there's already plenty of goofy shit going on. A lot of us are either dealing with family, and even if we want to see them, that's stressful, but a lot of us may not want to see that family, or it's complicated, right? Or for a lot of us, we're not hanging out with family, and that's got all of its baggage and funky vibes and weird shit. Even those of us who avoid family and are happy to do so, we're surrounded by these traditions, and a lot of these traditions are built on a lie, right? A lot of these traditions are built on a lot of false, weird stuff. Celebrating, as I love to say every year, because I myself am a Sagittarius, celebrating a birthday for a guy who's not even going to show up for the party. What's that about? This is part of why Sagittariuses are the way that we are. But, right, so there's a whole lot of opportunities for this to already be a stressful week, a funky week, a not super fun week. And now we've got all of these collections of squares sort of hovering about. So if it's right and good for you to engage some of this tension in an authentic way, in a way that is oriented towards healing, reciprocity, understanding, building bridges, like we might start with an argument, but we're going to end with a handshake, that thing, if that feels right and it makes sense for you, engage, go for it, have at it. But it's a lot to have these squares happening this week, I think. And so if you're not feeling it, take care of yourself. As I often recommend on the podcast, put yourself in time out. Go for a walk around the block. Go do a little deep breathing. Go put your back up against a tree somewhere. Be responsible for yourself and take yourself out of the stressful situation. Gather yourself, get yourself together, do what you got to do, right? If you really feel like this is just going to be a hell week for you, goddess bless. Sorry, that sucks. And also, again, maybe reach out to a bestie and say, hey, is it cool if I just vent to you? This is something that I learned from, I'm pretty sure this came out of the Guide for the Ethical Slut. But I read a story about a top who had a bottom. God bless our kinky community. And the bottom had an oh baby coupon that they could, a poor baby coupon that they could burn once a week. And it was 10 minutes where they could call the top and vent and complain and whine and cry about whatever was going wrong for them. And the top would answer with, poor baby, poor baby. Like, don't record that. You better pay me for that. I do offer that service, side note. It's part of a larger package, but a much, much larger package. But this might be a week to engage something like that. Can you have a friend on standby who has room for you, right? Don't put this on people who don't. But do you have a friend or a bestie or a relative who has the capacity, the emotional space to have a poor baby coupon for you so you can vent all week? Because these squares, for some of us it's just going to be annoying, and for some of us it's going to hit. Okay. All right. So I wanted to talk about that sort of being this overarching thing in the background, of whatever else is going on for the week. So now let's get into what is going on for this week. We have some holidays and some big long festivals and events that have already kicked in. As we look around the globe and throughout time, we see the cultures all over the Northern Hemisphere participating in rituals and festivals around this quarter holiday, winter solstice, celebrating, we've already talked about a lot of this, rebirth, transformation, ancestors, enlightenment, and wisdom, and the birth or rebirth or the return of solar and light deities during this quarter holiday. The solstices and the equinoxes are referred to as quarter Sabbats. The other four, Imbolc, Beltane, Lunasa, and Samhain, are referred to as cross-quarter Sabbats. So you'll hear me say that from time to time. So all of the holidays that we're working through at this time are just about all of the holidays tend to feature one of these themes. The return of light, the return or guidance from ancestors, enlightenment and wisdom, coming upon us or existing or being reborn, etc., etc. So we have a lot of that kind of stuff happening right now. For all of our Jewish friends and ancestors all around the world, between December 14th and the 22nd this year, we have, of course, the beautiful festival of Hanukkah, which celebrates the return of light. From our Catholic, especially our Latin Catholic friends and ancestors all over the world, we have, running from December 16th to December 25th, Las Posadas. We also, up in the sky, have the Ursids meteor shower running from December 17th to the 25th, which of course would have delighted our ancient ancestors. And I'll mention this from time to time in the various classes and podcasts, but we always see big meteor showers happening at the same time that ancestor work is a big deal on Earth. Coincidence? No, I don't think it is at all. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think it's a coincidence at all. I think that is very much one way that meteor showers have been interpreted by our ancient ancestors, is as ancestors coming back. Trippy idea when we combine it with the hypothesis from astrophysics that it was potentially a meteor carrying the seeds of life that hit Earth, and that's how we got the right mix of chemicals and microbes and all of that stuff to kick it off here on the planet. Who knows? Maybe one of us will astral project back into time one day and go see the beginning of whatever. Probably be cool, but just saying, interesting, right? And last but not least, of course, for modern pagans, running from December 17th through the 23rd, we have the amazing festival of Saturnalia. Saturnalia is a Roman festival celebrating the reign of the god and planet Saturn, god of vegetation, time, death, and rebirth. Servants and masters would trade places, gifts were exchanged, masks were worn, and pranks were pulled. Saturnalia is one of the festivals that people will look back to as potentially a forerunner of carnival celebrations that we see also happening around the planet at this time of year and at the other end of winter out in January, February. Maybe they're connected. Maybe they're not. If not, that's fine, because clearly humans are really into doing processions. So they don't have to be connected to see that humans have been doing this type of thing at this type of year, or this time of year, all over the planet for a really, really long time. We love that. Okay. So now moving through the week, December 19th, as we said before, we have our new moon in Sagittarius, and then the moon enters Capricorn. And that's it. December 20th, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Etamin. And we find this fixed star in the constellation Draco, or the dragon. This is the right eye of the dragon. This is also called the serpent's head or the dragon's head. And interestingly, temples dedicated to the Egyptian goddesses Hathor and Mut are aligned to this star's path as of like 5,000 years ago, give or take. And then much, much later on, much more recently, you know, around the 3,000 mark or whatever, temples built for Ramses and Khans, also in alignment with this star. I believe that there's like 7 or 8 different temple complexes that are in alignment with this star, this heliacal star traveling or rising in the sky. The dragon's head stuff, things. Just gonna leave that there for you, right? We do this sometimes. I'm just giving you nuggets of info, and then we move on. This day is one of our days when we have lots of those squares. Mercury square the North Node, Sun square Neptune, Venus square Saturn. Mercury square Neptune absolutely can be days or a time period where messages are coming in from the deep heart of the universe. This new moon in Sagittarius is in alignment with the galactic center. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a second. So Mercury in Sag square the North Node in Pisces. This is a fantastic time to tap into dreams, astral projection, meditation, spiritually oriented journaling, you know, anything that induces, anything safe, obviously, that induces a trance state to call in messages from the universe. Again, at the same time, Sun is square Neptune, Venus is square Saturn. So Sun square Neptune can bring in disillusionment and fatigue and confusion, right? It can be a day where it sounds like getting really, really high is a really, really good idea. It might not be. But if we are handling the square, it might be a really fantastic day for spiritual exploration and making art and sort of drifting in the misty mists of the foggy fog. You know what I'm saying? But if that's not cool, then slow down, take an extra nap, have some snacks on hand. When we're having difficult Neptune transits, we can forget about taking care of the body. So, you know, it's the 20th. For a lot of us, that's going to be, you know, right in the heart of our winter solstice celebrations. But if you're not geared towards that and you're geared more towards the Christmas celebrations, this might be right in the heart of you shopping and cleaning and baking and doing and ba 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 ba. Drink a fucking glass of water, okay? Which, Jesus, hydrate. Like, have a snack, have another snack, put another snack in your bag, okay? Because that's very much a part of this too. And then with the square between Venus and Saturn, that also very much invites in literal depression, funky vibes in our relationships, domestic partnership, romantic partnership, our friendships, whatever. Funky vibes can be there. And it might be a day where your expectations of the people around you are way more than what is reasonable for the situation. It might be that their expectations of you are way out of whack with what you can actually deliver. And so that might be a part of the fatigue and the confusion and the difficulty of that day. So there's all of that. And then for our Catholic friends and ancestors, longest night is kicking in on December 20th. Moving to December 21st, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Acumen. Acumen is a big deal. We find it in the constellation of Scorpio. Hydrating myself. Here we go. Yay. And this is actually a star cluster just above the stinger in Scorpio's tail. It can indicate like mental sharpness, but it can also indicate like hellfire and brimstone and poison and stuff like that. But I want you to think about arrowheads and serpent fangs and the head of the dragon and poison and things along those lines. Just keeping that stuff in the back of your mind. Cool? Okay. Also on this day, we have winter solstice. Dun, 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 dun. We made it. Good job, everybody. When we're here at winter solstice, the goddess is crone, but they are also life in death. They are the embodiment of an eternal, immortal, living thing existing in the face of seemingly everything also shutting down and dying off at the same time. She sits as the immortal embodiment of pure wisdom, immortal tradition, and lived experience, the place where the divine spark is born. If the goddess bears any children, they are either extensions of herself or they are light beings, often wearing a golden or shining crown, or they have a radiance around their head. And often, these beings, these babies born of the goddess at this time of year, are the symbols of enlightenment and the major deity of their own systems. So, who is born at this time of year? Sol Invictus, Mithra, Jesus, Amaterasu. The list goes on and on and on and on and on of the many, many deities. Buddha is born at this time. Like, there's so many, so many born at this time of year that are themselves the heads of their religious systems, their philosophical systems, their belief systems, their magical systems. This is what is up. The god form in paganism at this time of year is the sun lover of the goddess, the Holly King. The Holly King is dead. The Holly King has kicked it for as long as they were going to kick it through this last 6 months. Boom, they're done. The Oak King is born. The bright twin born in the darkest part of the year. The Oak King heralds the eventual return of the sun. It's all uphill from here. And so begins another cycle of the eternal ebb and flow between these two archetypes. There's something else that I wanted to read for you guys. Some of the things I'm reading from my book, my workbook that I've written on Yule. This is available for some patrons. I've been putting these out for years, and so some of this writing is from this. And yeah, okay. So let me also say this. As we move into the last weeks of fall and on into Sagittarius season, foggy nights, frozen mornings, and waning sunlight begin to guide us away from the jump shock of funhouse carnival mask death and into the real spirit of death, stillness, void, and ultimately reunion with the source. We have either hit the reset button at Samhain or we hit it now. Time and life stop and take a couple of breaths and then begin again. Make sure you take the time to do the same. Our naked branches are encrusted in silver ice, glittering, frozen, stretching toward a blank sky. At winter solstice, the light hits its lowest point, which means it's only up from here. The Oak King has risen again with the reborn sun, sternly carrying the wisdom of the ages. The Holly King has frozen to death on some blasted ridge, hung up on thorns in his velvet frock, while looking for berries out of season. We nurture and care for ourselves and our home, but more from a grim survival aspect than any warm instinct. We follow tradition, not from a sentimental urge, but because this is what kept people alive last time the village faced winter. We look across the wheel at the goddess, lounging in the warm, verdant abundance of the high part of the year. How far away she seems now. Winter may call us to make some hard choices. The energy of Yule can drive us to focus on the function and tenacity of a thing, with physical world security taking precedence over comfort or health or loving solutions. Do not become hard like ice and stone during Yule, but have respect for their longevity. Consider, what must be sacrificed by one who would be immortal and eternal? What heritages and traditions do you stand on? Okay, so there's some of that for you. Now, and also, the sun is entering Capricorn. And so, if you haven't yet, at some point during the Capricorn season, but I would encourage you to do this before 12/31, that calendar's new year. If you haven't yet, take some time to look back over your year and witness all that you have accomplished. And again, you don't have to fucking do this for the gram. You could, God forbid, do it just for yourself. But anyways, starting with managing to stay alive in the midst of many, many systems breaking down, I want you to witness all that you have managed to keep somewhat stable. I want you to witness all of the responsibilities that you did keep up with. And I want you to witness where you managed to show patience while centered in a fucking shit show. Okay? So if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I don't have a list of accomplishments, man, it's been only a backward slide, I want you to witness the accomplishment of not sliding further back than you already have. That's what I want, okay? I demand it. I'm your witch, and I'm saying. Now, also, and on this day, we have Jupiter retrograde in Cancer squaring Chiron retrograde in Aries at 22 degrees. Jupiter square Chiron can be very, very tough. So here again is one of those squares that I'm talking about that's like, if you have the capacity for this work, awesome. If you don't have the capacity for this work today, fully understand. Jupiter square Chiron very much wants to take into account all that has happened, right? Jupiter wants everything. Jupiter wants all the information, all the data, all of the everything. Chiron holds a record of all of the things that have wounded us and what we learned from that. So cumulatively, that might be a lot for you on this day. But if you're here for it, what the square is asking for us is, where have those wounds encouraged me towards Jupiter's less healthy behaviors, and where do I need to make some corrections around that? Jupiter can be really bombastic, very pompous, very self-righteous, very dogmatic. That's where Sagittarius gets all of this stuff from. Jupiter can often deal with things by overspending, overextending, overpromising, and either overdoing it and screwing themselves to keep the vibes right, or overpromising and then not showing up and then screwing somebody else and creating even more funky vibes from that. So, Chiron Jupiter square here wants you to take a moment and think about those things. Where am I trying to overdo it, trying to spend too much, trying to do too much, trying to whatever, to keep the vibes right, to keep it super happy, so I don't have to deal with how not cool something actually is. And instead, if I would just turn around and face this, what really profound wisdom might be here for me. Just that. No pressure, guys. Just that. It seems cool. It's probably fine. Seems like not a big deal. All right. Now, taking a look at our holy days for December 21st. As we have already mentioned, it is winter solstice. Also kicking off this day for our Zuni and Hopi friends and ancestors, running from December 21st to January 9th approximately. We have the Festival of Soyal. This is a winter solstice ceremony for the Zuni and Hopi people. This is private. This is not something that any old person can go and attend. You need to be a part of their tribes, as far as I understand. And it is dedicated to the peaceful ones. Paphos, or prayer sticks, are made to bless people, their homes, animals, and plants. And sacred underground ritual chambers called kivas are ritually opened to mark the beginning of the Kachina season. And this is a a festival complex that wraps around the year. And there are these high points in this festival complex where major shifts happen. And this is one of the ones where like the Kachina energy has sort of been quiet up to this point, and at winter solstice they start to wake the Kachina energy back up. I am not in any way, shape, or form an expert on this subject matter. So, one, I'm going to stop talking now. And two, if this is intriguing to you, any of the stuff that I talk about from other traditions or other cultures, go do your research or yourself. Go find out more. That's why I talk about that information in these situations where it's free. It's also running from December 21st through the 25th. From our Hindu friends and ancestors, we have Pancha Ganapati. For our Egyptian friends and ancestors, from the 21st to the 25th, we have the birth of Horus. For our Persian friends and ancestors, we have Yaldara, and our Iranian friends and ancestors, we have Shab-e Yalda. These are all, again, celebrating the winter solstice, the death and the rebirth of the sun. December 22nd, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Sinistra. And we find this fixed star in the constellation of Ophiuchus, the controversial constellation of Ophiuchus. Is it the 13th constellation? Is astrology bullshit? Oh my god. Every year you are going to hear about this goddamn... None of them get it right. Whatever. There's no time for me to go on my rant. But TLDR, it's a real constellation. Yes, it was something that ancient people used to work with more, but they worked with like 36 different constellations. We have whittled it down to 12, and we can barely keep track of those. Ophiuchus is basically in the same place in the sky as Scorpio and Sagittarius and Corona Borealis and Draco and a few others, right? Because it isn't just one tiny little spot. It's a whole giant pie wedge when we're talking about the sky. So Ophiuchus is here. Sinistra means specifically left side. And we find this star in the hand of Ophiuchus holding the tail of the snake. This star, interestingly, is often worked with in remedies for snake bites. And it is connected to the card, the Tower. Huh. Interesting. Just tuck that in your witch's cap. Tuck it in the cauldron. Keep stirring. Okay. What else do we have going on December 22nd? The moon enters Aquarius. For our Druid friends and ancestors, we have Alban Arthen, which is, of course, winter solstice. From our Greek friends and ancestors, we have Heliogena or Heliogena, which is the genesis of Helios or the sun. From our Taoist friends and ancestors, we have the festival of Zhi Wang Mu. And from our Chinese friends and ancestors, we have the festival of Dongzhi. And these are, again, winter celebrations. December 23rd brings us to the waxing crescent moon in Aquarius. And this always comes a couple of days after our new moon. It's our first lunar phase after the new moon. And the waxing crescent moon in any sign is asking us, okay, so we've started this new process. We've planted a seed. We opened a door. We've pondered a thing. Are we going to actually go through with this? Are we going to be able to pull away from our past or pull away from our inaction to be able to move into action, to move into doing? Will we? Can we? What does that look like? So the new moon, or excuse me, the waxing crescent in Aquarius is asking us if we can break away from and grow away from our philosophical and our moral paradigms that we have inherited from the past, from patriarchy. This is a fantastic moon for simply re-examining old social norms or the quote-unquote traditions of polite society. Yeah, real fucking polite out there. As well as the patriarchal figures that we learned this stuff from. We don't need to villainize people in this process, or maybe we do, but it is a really great time to look at it objectively with clear eyes and be more inclined to kind of witness where we are resistant in growing away from that stuff, or disinclined to grow away from that stuff. For our lunar body work, while we have a waxing crescent in Aquarius, we are awakening, activating, stimulating, preparing for action, and adorning the legs, especially the knees and ankles, although the ankles also are shared rulership with Pisces. And for our plant body work, we are cultivating, harvesting for drying and storage, more pest control and disease control, like we talked about before, and then all of our like plowing and aerating the soil. If you haven't poked your plant soil in a while, it might be a good time to gently do that to get some air down into the soil. And as I said before, planting our annual winter crops that bear their fruit or whatever it is above ground, especially the leafy crops, etc., etc. All of that stuff, same as the Sagittarius. Okay. Moving on to December 23rd, we have the heliacal rising of the fixed star Spiculum. Now, Spiculum is not speculum, but go ahead and work with that metaphor, vagina owners. It's too much sometimes. It's a little too on the nose sometimes. Spiculum is a star found in the constellation of Sagittarius. It is found in the bow of the Archer. It is often grouped into all of the stars that are in the bow of the Archer, but it is actually also referred to as the spear or the arrowhead. So Spiculum is the actual arrow that Sagittarius is shooting. And when we pass through this portion of the sky, this portion of the wheel brings us witches in the northern hemisphere really, really close to the big dark. And a profound existential angst can take hold as we witness the vastness of experience. Our moon, our new moon this week, is at 28 degrees of Sagittarius, which is the heart of our galaxy, and probably a black hole. Sagittarius shoots their arrow right here. Now, I want you to think about that sculpture of Saint Teresa again. And I want you to think about the lightning bolt in the tower. And I want you to think about shooting a satellite into the heart of our galaxy. We can feel so small in this work that we are destined to simply be a tiny speck whirling into the abyss. We might feel so insignificant in the universe's blueprint as to just be a speck hurtling through space on a fragment of rock. Holding up our torch in the face of this void absolutely can wear us out. This weariness reminds me of the feeling in the Nine of Wands card, which is connected to the moon in Sagittarius. And we will talk about that more towards the end of the podcast. However, this star, Spiculum, can also help us invoke the feeling of being at the tip of the arrowhead, flying into the heart of the universe, helping us discover profound philosophical and personal insights. From the workbook, Sagittarius and the constellation shooting out of it, Spiculum, the arrow, are often conflated with one another in ancient astrology. The bow, the archer, and the arrow, at times, all one thing. Words like sagir, Latin for seek to know, comes from Sagittarius. So too, words like sick, as in to hunt down, come from this constellation, and it is related to both Zeus and Diana in their various hunts. Greeks called it toxutes, the archer, and this is where we get toxin, as in the poison used on arrowheads. Usually, this poison was from yew trees. Interestingly, some groups see this constellation as Chiron, the wounded healer. Again, if you are here for this work, it's here for you. If this is all like too much, man, take a nap, have a snack. It's okay. We're going to come back around to it again next year. It's only going to be 365 days. Don't sweat it. But this star for me is very much at the heart of the meaning of the week for me, in the sense of, we have all these squares and we have all these funky vibes and we have a lot of pressure to show up in certain ways. We have Sagittarius energy rolling into Capricorn energy. Sagittarius energy is very fraternal and communal, and it's the big stress on brotherhood and this idea of camaraderie and all for one and one for all. And Capricorn energy is very focused on exclusion and who gets to make it onto the special list of who is allowed inside and outside. And the combination of all of this stuff very much can leave you feeling alienated, isolated, drifting in the dark, hurtling towards the abyss. And maybe we are. Maybe we are. And at the same time, we have all of these belief systems, magical systems, philosophical systems sitting around us, pointing out all of these metaphors in the cosmos all about us and saying, we're not a speck of dust hurling into the void. We are the tip of the arrowhead that God is shooting into her own heart. Okay. And it's incredible and wildly intense regardless, right? And that transcendent image also might be too much to handle right now. And that's okay. Have some nog, my dog. We're going to get through this. But just that, right? No pressure, just that. That's it. As you're swirling your cauldrons, literally and metaphorically, that is the center of the galaxy with the void right in the middle of it. And that is the heart of the universe. Well, it's not literally, but it's a metaphor for it. So that's the imagery that again, this is why Sagittariuses are like this, okay? You all think it's just like frat parties and like fucking jello shots. Yes, it's that too. Okay, look, it's that too. But it's also this. This is also why Sagittariuses are like this. It's this stuff. We're losing our minds out here, okay? But we're also gaining our minds out here. On this same day, we have Venus square Neptune. And Neptune's at that 29th degree, right? Neptune oversees a lot of these types of states that are very spirit-oriented, soul-oriented, transcendent, bliss-oriented, God-oriented, whatever all those words mean for you, right? It's Neptune oversees a lot of those experiences. So Venus square Neptune can feel like a lot of disillusionment, a lot of heartache, a lot of funky vibes. But if we are here for the tension, if things are good, it can actually be really transcendent and be another really amazing day to do spiritual journeying and do magical journaling and to sort of bliss out in the spiritual realms or do artwork that's intended to kind of, bring through spiritual messages and things like that. And again, still going to remind you, make sure you've got your snacks on hand. Make sure that you've got water on hand. Neptune transits, we forget the body. So take care of yourself and all of that stuff, but that's here for you. And again, if there's no time, there's no energy, there's no space in you to do this, that's fine. We will have other Venus square Neptune days. It's okay. That's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Have a snack, have a nap, have some nog, my dog. We're going to get through it. Also on this day, from our Shinto friends and ancestors, we have Toji Tasai. And this festival or day marks the end of the sun's decline, the yin period, and the beginning of its growth, the yang period. In Shinto spirituality, the sun is Amaterasu Omikami, the sun goddess, and the guiding spirit of the Japanese people. In fact, the big red sun that you see on their flag is Amaterasu. Just that, guys. Just that. All right, moving on to December 24th. Christ Mass Eve, we have the heliacal rising of Polis. We find this star as well in Sagittarius. It is known as Yao the bull, or Polis the foal, like a baby horse, or Polis, like city. So it's had various translations through time. It's also called the keeper of the Na'ims. And it is even also called the going and returning ostriches. And this is a collection of stars that sit on either side of the heart of the Milky Way. And they are thought of as these little birds, the ostriches, or other like desert birds that cross the river to one side and then cross the river and come back again. So that's all here. We also find these stars, or this star, in the bow of the archer. And collectively, all of these stars, if it wasn't really obvious when we were talking about speculum, but all of these stars that we find here in the bow of the archer are really concerned with the motives that launch our arrows forward. And these currently kind of mark the actual winter solstice point, even though visually that doesn't seem to be the thing it is. Swear to God, it's true. But all of these bows are about kind of checking our motivations. All of the stars that are in the bow are kind of about checking our motivations and like, what are we grounded in as we are shooting these arrows out into the universe or not? Also on this day, we have Venus entering Capricorn. Venus oversees our aesthetics, our tastes, the way we like to socialize with people, how we try to attract things to us. And Venus can often describe our morals and our ethics and our values. And so all of that stuff is going to start to become more influenced by our concern with appearing, at least, hardworking and frugal, practical, pragmatic, responsible, as well as, because Capricorn oversees this too, our achievements, our success, all of that. And so Venus rolling through Capricorn also wants to be seen as successful. So, see what comes up for you there. Look at the portion of your chart where Capricorn is, or any of these signs that we've talked about through the podcast today. Look at what houses are connected to those signs, and that's where you've got these planets transiting through, and you're going to have this tone of energy sort of stirred up. December 24th through January 20th, that is our tree month of Birch, the achiever, as we talked about at the beginning of the podcast. From December 24th through the 31st, for our Slavic friends and ancestors, we have the festival of Kolyadki, or Kolyadki. It's also named Kolada in some places. And this is a festival that sits very tightly in with the long night, midwinter, Alban Arthen, and the Night of Mothers, or Modrenacht, which is also on this day. Modrenacht, or Modresnacht, is a German, pagan, Teutonic festival / Anglo-Saxon / Norse, Danish, Icelandic, Swedish. Like there was, we see it in a variety of places. Modrenacht, however it's pronounced, Old English for the Night of the Mothers, or Mother's Night. And this is a multi-day festival that has stations for the goddess. I don't know if any of this sounds familiar for the Catholics out there, but there's, different things that are done on different days, altar stuff, candle inscriptions, all of this good stuff. And it is specifically involving the Dizir, the collective female ancestral beings, and the female deities, the ghosts, the spirits that are connected to fate. And one of the things that we do talk about a lot during Yule season is divinatory practices, fate-oriented practices. It is very normal all through Samhain season and Yule season and Imbolc season to consult the fates, the Norns, the weavers, the spinners, for what the hell is happening, what's coming next, because we are in the midst of chaos. Hey, that sounds familiar. very normal for pagans, polytheists, witches, magic workers of all kinds to be like, yo, we need to check in. Let me consult the orb and get some data on, like, are we going to live through winter? Did we, salt enough meat? Did we pack the grain correctly? Is it going to last through winter? All of that stuff, right? Those are the things that are coming up for us at this time. So, Mother's Night, deeply focused on checking in with these maternal entities, goddesses, ancestors, and fate deities that are here to hopefully guide us through this portion of the year. That brings us to good old December 25th. And running from December 25th to January 5th, for our Teutonic friends and ancestors, we have Yule. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. For our Christian and Catholic friends and ancestors, of course, December 25th is Christ Mass, Christmas, the Mass of Christ. Ah, what a guy. And for our Persian friends and ancestors, we see the birth of Mithra. And for our Coptic Christian friends and ancestors, we have the feast of Archangel Raphael. That brings us to December 26th, where we also have no astrology of note, as far as I'm concerned. And on this day, we see the beginning of Kwanzaa, here in the United States, at least, if not around the planet. Kwanzaa runs from December 26th to January 1st every year, and this is an annual celebration of African American culture, culminating in a big communal feast, usually on the 6th day. This is a modern celebration, very much like we were talking about earlier in the podcast with the Celtic tree system. Kwanzaa is a modern celebration built out of traditional festival pieces from various parts of East, Southeast, and West Africa. I want to say that Kwanzaa started in the 1960s, like 65, 66, 67, somewhere in there. And, it's picking up every year in popularity and celebration, and I don't know, it's cool. It's a cool thing to study. There are every day of the celebration has its own vibe, and its own, these 7 principles that people sort of focus on. I mean, there's elements of it to me that are reminiscent of Hanukkah, but there are elements of it that are very much its own thing. So go check it out. Also on this day, for our Catholic friends and ancestors, we have St. Stephen's Day. For our Irish friends and ancestors, this is Wren's Day. For our ancient Roman friends and ancestors, this is the Dies Natalis of the temples dedicated to Diana, son of Zeus. He had a thing with lightning, didn't he? Interesting. Diana, oh wait, she was an archer. Huh. I'm sure it's just a coincidence. Juno Regina, oh Juno, the goddess form of Jupiter. Okay. And the Tempestates. Pretty sure they were connected to fate stuff. Crazy. That's pretty much what we've got going on through the week. That's what's up. So now let me wrap some stuff up for you, and give you a couple of tools to work with as we move through this cycle. So how do we sit with all of this stuff, with where we are on the wheel? Well, we are leaving fall and we are stepping into winter. We are asking Sagittarius energy to assist us in shape-shifting, transcending, transforming, transmuting, out of the old and into the new, right? We're not simply just changing from one sign to another or one season to another. This truly is a season that embodies the ideas of death and rebirth. So, first question for journaling, perhaps for yourself, is what is changing for me? You might also ask yourself, where am I resisting living in my truth? Where am I holding back truth to keep myself or other people comfortable? And where is that not tenable anymore? What new authentic version of myself am I going to hold up in the world and champion? What am I going to be brave enough to fly as my flag of truth and authenticity over my head. Sagittarius energy also, on a lighter note, is asking, is there a trip? Is there a journey? Is there an adventure that I really want to go on? Is there a far horizon that I keep dreaming about, but I'm also scared to try to do it because it's really going to push me out of my comfort zone? What's that like? What's that all about? Journal on that shit, dog. I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but I would also recommend journaling on the idea of looking back over the year and taking an account of everything that you've accomplished. Yes, that's very Capricornian. But in Sag, it's also about looking at everything that you have lost and gained in this last year with that Chiron energy in the background, and considering what deep wisdom you have gained by managing to survive another fucking year on this season of planet Earth. And not only what deep wisdom have you earned and acquired, but what are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with that going forward? I talked earlier about the weariness that we might feel reasonably from holding our torch up or trying to hold our torch up in the face of the, infinite abyss, right? No big deal. And I want you to think back about, what we were talking about at the very beginning of the podcast with our birch brooms and the light that we are in the universe. That sometimes it is not just about cursing the darkness. It's about holding it back. It's about, I am radiant because because this darkness must be pushed back. So in all of this work, we have the rune Yara here to help us. Some folks work with the system of runic half months. Yara runs from December 13th through the 27th. So it covers last week and this week. And Yara or Yera means year, completion, fruition, and the marriage of the earth and cosmos. No big deal. It's just, all the stuff we were talking about in the podcast. Runes are very subjective, and runes also have a lot of baggage on them because of bullshit that fascists have tried to add to what's going on with runes. I would say that, yeah, there's some decent sources out there. Vet all your sources when it comes to modern or not so modern authors on runes and what they mean and what they're for and all of that stuff. Double check, triple check, because the devil is busy, but fascists are busier. So, but my takeaway with working with runes is a lot of this stuff is really subjective. And I personally find that a less is more approach is good for me when I'm working with runes. I'm like, give me a couple of seed ideas and then let me just meditate. Let me meditate on the shape of the rune and these words and these ideas and whatever other correlations, I've discovered. And then let me just witness the world and think about the rune. And probably some objective stuff is going to come through of like, oh yeah, also this book says blah, blah, blah. But I think really the idea is to develop a subjective, very personal relationship with the rune and its meaning and where we work with it on the wheel. So I recommend hanging out with that. And then if we work with tarot, if you like working with tarot, you certainly can hang out with the Temperance card because Temperance is connected to the sign of Sagittarius. But specifically, we can work with the Nine of Wands. Because this is the moon in Sagittarius. The 8, 9, and 10 of wands are all connected to Sagittarius in some magical systems. And the 9 of wands is an interesting tarot card. When we look at the illustration in the Smith-Waite deck, we see a person who looks weary. They look downtrodden. They look like they've had it worked out on them. Rode hard, put away wet. or maybe not even put away, right? They have a bandage on their head and they are leaning heavily on the staff that they are holding. The staff is holding them up. And when we're working with the suit of wands, on the surface, what we're working with is the roles that we play in this lifetime and who we are for ourselves and who we are for all of the people in our life and what's that all look like and how much labor is involved in that, blah, blah, blah. And by the time we get to the Nine of Wands, we're exhausted. We are worn out. We are weary from this work. We are maybe not entirely certain who we are as a person. We are maybe not entirely certain if our torch is even lit, let alone what we're holding it up for or who or what is being illuminated by it. Like, what am I even doing? It's a lot of the energy in the Knight of Wands. Like, what even is this? What is even happening? And sometimes we have to get to this place. Sometimes we have to go too far and go too hard and do too much and exhaust ourselves so that clarity comes through on the other side. Or hopefully, maybe, clarity or insight comes through on the other side. This kind of weariness can come through shamanic experiences as well, like when you're dancing yourself into exhaustion or you're, other things that sort of push the physical body into extreme states. And then the insight comes. It's extreme, though, right? Meaning it's difficult, it's not sustainable, it's not for everyone, it's not possible for everyone. So when we're hanging out in this Nine of Wands energy, we can feel fed up, exhausted, exasperated, frustrated, worn out, weary on a soul level. I often think of this as like, I have seen too much. I've seen too much. And my third eye is gaping. Okay, it's not good. We're not having a good time. And so this is also a moment of reminding us of like, this too will pass. It's okay if we go hard. This moment will pass, and feel this. Be acutely aware of what you are exhausted by, what you are weary of, what has become too much in the identities that you are connecting to, the roles that you're playing in your life, in society, in your family, whatever. And where are you working really, really hard to keep your torch lit in the face of the winds of chaos around us? What would help you do that? Play with this metaphor. What would help you protect your torch? Who in your life is helping you protect your light? And who in your life is wearing you out and expecting you to continue to throw your logs on their fire and keep them lit and keep them happy and warm and excited and inspired? Sagittarius energy is very much about inspiration, but who is doing the inspiring and who is being inspired? Again, speaking back to this weariness, wherever your Sagittarius placements are, you might be feeling very, very weary in this portion of your life if you are the person who's been trying to keep everybody else's torches lit. This might be a really important check-in on, we need to come back to keeping our own fire lit. We need to come back to our own hearth and stoke this, and then carry that light back out into the world and help other people keep their torches lit. We're gonna, right? But that might be the kind of check-in that's happening for us here. And then as we move into Capricorn and winter solstice and Yule and that portion of the work, our tarot cards switch into the Devil, which is connected to Capricorn, and the World, which is connected to Saturn, the ruling planet of Capricorn. We will talk about those next week. Thanks for being here. Hey, look, it's the podcast. How cute. Oh my God. Okay. There's stuff happening on the horizon. If you're still here, hi, welcome, thanks for staying, because long podcast, that's what I do. head to the socials, click on things. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Blue Sky. You can follow me on Patreon for free now, though I only post for everybody some of the time. Still, most of the posts there are for folks that have subscribed. Thank you so much to my freaking subscribers. Oh my god. I just want to say that there's stuff coming. So if you've stuck around, I hope you feel like it's starting to pay off, or it's going to start to pay off soon. And if you haven't stuck around, I get it and I understand it, but maybe you want to come back and check it out and see what's going on. Soon. There's classes coming up. We've got our Imbolc class next month. Yes, already. Yule season is going to go by way faster than you think it is. And we have some other classes coming up too. Our next class is actually probably January 3rd, but I'm almost locked in on that, which, given that it's December 19th, I guess I better figure that out. But this is going to be for patrons, and that's going to be for the full moon, and we're going to do some energetic hygiene stuff, because I want to gear you all up for the work that we need to do in 2026. So we are going to start to cover our basics and our fundamentals for magical practice. Neptune's heading into Aries, Saturn heading into Aries. It's time to get it moving. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to stop there before I do too much. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for staying. Thanks for coming back. Thanks for hanging out. Happy solstice. Blessed Yule. Happy death. Happy rebirth. I'm so excited for you to end that old shit and open up the door to the new shit. And I'll see you soon. Oh yeah, year ahead readings, cats. Go sign up for them. I also have gift certificates available on my website. I never remember to say that. And I also have available on the Yule page. I have a couple things available in my store. I have Yule cards available. I have altar cloths and tapestries, and I've got cute little bags for your tarot cards, and I've got journals and stuff like that. They're really simple, but it's something. You're supporting me. You're supporting various nonprofits as well. Everything has a 10% tithe to somebody else. So you're pushing the good energy out into the world every time. But I've got cute stuff for you there. Gift certificates available on my website. Year ahead readings still available for now on my website. Let me help you get your shit together for 2026. Blessed be.